Good morning, everyone.
4 days later.
Thank you all for coming on this
That was it.
almost fall-like morning. It feels really, really nice. I don't know about you all, but I've had enough of the heat.
You'll get some more.
Yeah, there is a little bit more, yeah. Anyways, today feels like fall, which is kind of nice. So I think this is going to be our last breakfast series of the year, if I'm not mistaken, which we've had a really, really good slate. We've got our cleanup hitter, Nate Addington, who's my colleague in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm getting this right, Senior Director of External Relations and Engagement.
Yeah,
correct?
That's great.
Okay, I don't know if I have those words in the right order, but
I shuffle them sometimes to keep it.
I like to refer to Nate. I just started working with Nate on some stuff in addition to my events work, and I'm really excited. He does a lot of really exciting work in the neighborhoods, in the community. He's a up-and-coming leader at UMKC that I think is going to do some really, really good work. He spearheads our Insiders Academy, which we do twice a year, which is bringing, I'll let you explain what that is. But anyways, it's a really great program that he's sort of spearheaded. We're all really excited about it. Nate comes to us from Ohio, from
College of Worcester is where I was at before.
College of Worcester. So anyways, without further ado, Nate Addington.
Good morning. I'm very glad to be here with you all. I had a chance to go around and introduce myself to everyone. Some of you I've had the pleasure of actually working with, and some I've worked with in a variety of other capacities. You all, I have to say, I'm exceedingly envious of you all because every month when I log on to the HR website to log any vacation time I have, I don't know if you know this, but HR, there's a bunch of icons. You know, you can request time off, you can look at your pay stub, but the biggest one that's right in the center is submit for retirement. And every time I log in, I go, one of these days, I'm going to click that button. One of these days.
Nate, you've got to tell the quick story of your transition from Ohio to Kansas City.
Yeah, so I started at UMKC in the spring of 2020. If that rings a bell, it's because the world basically fell apart. My first day at UMKC was actually the day of the lockdown order, which is a fantastic time. And so I was working for the College of Worcester in Ohio with my family. We had lived there for a little over 7 years. And Worcester before that was just down the road at Ashland University for about 5 before that. Doing similar work with community engagement, but more student focused at that time. My wife and I wanted to make a move to a larger city. We had a young child who was in 2nd grade at the time, and we knew that if we stayed in small, rural Ohio for long, his identity would soon be small, rural Ohio. And so we started looking at larger cities across the country, primarily in the South and the Southwest. When I'm not working with community here, I do a lot of work in international development in Central America. And so we were looking to kind of lean into that culture, saw this job at UMKC, and thought, oh, that looks like a fantastic job, applied, neglected to tell my wife that I applied, thinking, well, we're not going to actually go to Kansas City, but like it'll be good to just toss my hat into the ring. Got the interview and actually was offered the job, and then realized, oh, I should probably let my wife know. And so I said, hey, I've got a job offer in Kansas City, and she said, no. We're trying to get out of small town America. Like, do they even have like buildings? We had never been here. And so I said, well, let's just go. They invited us to come out for the weekend and we'll eat the barbecue and say thank you, but no thank you. And so we came out and immediately our stereotypes were reaffirmed because we landed at the old airport and there were hay bales running down the sides of the runway. And she looked at me, she goes, this is not the bigger city that we were looking for. And it wasn't until we came on the highway and we kind of saw the skyline for the first time that we thought, oh, this actually is a city. There aren't just cows kind of wandering around downtown. Though there was a sagebrush that at one point rolled past us while we were leaving. But we went to 32 random people during those times that we were here, and I said, hi, I've got an offer to move to Kansas City. Do you think we should accept it? Everything from the hipster coffee shop up in Parkville to a watch repair store down in Waldo. And every single person said, well, why don't you already live here? Like, this is the best place in the world. And we fell in love with the city. And I remember sitting in the airport we wouldn't make eye contact with each other because I think we both realized what was happening. And she said, "So, we're moving to Kansas City." And I said, "I think so." And so we've been here 4.5 years now, and we love it. And I don't think we could ever possibly leave at this point. And so we did move here right as the pandemic started. I didn't meet my coworkers in person for almost a year and a half. When we first moved here, it was the very, very early days. We couldn't even get a realtor to show us a house because they were afraid that if we saw each other, we would just instantly die, right? We all didn't know what was happening. And so I called Troy, my boss, and said, "I can't find a place to stay. I can't even find a hotel." And he called me back and said, "We've emptied the dorms. You can come, you can stay in the dorms by yourself, but you can't unpack." And I said, "Okay." He said, "We promised the dorm space as overflow triage and morgue space when the bodies come." And so that was my welcome to Kansas City. And I thought, what have we done? It was so crazy. And so luckily that wasn't the case. And we were in a much better position than we anticipated and was eventually able to find a lovely home just south of campus. And so that was 4 years ago. So today my plan is to walk you through a little bit about what the Division of External Relations does. We have been around for a while in various forms, but it may be different than when you all worked here. I want to share a little bit about what some of my colleagues do in the division and some of the great work they're doing, and then I'm going to spend some time talking about what Matt and I do in community engagement and kind of I would say the 3 main pillars that we have when we're engaging the community. And then probably the most enticing, I'm going to share a little bit about some exciting capital and facilities projects that are happening. Not because those are necessarily the purview of external relations, though we are very closely involved in it, but because the projects have the potential to really shape the way that we are engaging with the external community, and many of them are kind of embedded in the neighborhoods themselves. And then we'll save some time for Q&A. So at any point you have a question, just feel free to interrupt me. My son is now 11 years old, so I'm used to being interrupted with questions all the time. So, Division of External Relations and Constituent Engagement, or ERSI. I love this little tagline we have, and we are charged with making connections with UMKC experiential, enduring, and extraordinary. It's different than the things that a lot of folks in advancement were doing in the sense that we are primarily not fundraisers. Some of the events that we do bring in funds from the university, and we do government relations, which brings in funds through the university through our relationships. But by and large, we're charged with forming relationships with the external community to advance the mission of the university, to ensure that our students, our faculty, and staff have the resources that we need. And a lot of times those resources just come through the partnerships that we have with the community partners, our corporate partners, our neighborhood partners, and such. And one of the things that I also love is this line at the top. It's in our strategic plan, and it was actually one of the lines I saw when applying for my job that really resonated for me. And it says that UMKC, since its founding, has been of, by, and for the community. And that was something that I really, really loved. And I think that you all probably, having worked here, know that that's the truth. Chancellor Agarwal loves to say he's never been at an institution where the lines between the campus and the community are so blurred. And that's definitely the case. When I was at the College of Worcester, I spent hours banging my head against the wall trying to convince people that community engagement was essential to the core mission of an academic institution. I don't have to make that argument here. Here, I just have to make the argument about what the best way to do it or who the best community partner is. By and large, our faculty, staff, and students know that we exist as an institution to serve the community. And so the culture of that, I think, permeates through the work that we do. This is our full external relations team. We're led by Vice Chancellor Kurt Cristino, and Troy Lillebug, who some of you mentioned, is my boss. He has the unfortunate burden of supervising myself, and then you've got me and Matt and the rest of our small and mighty team. The way that we are divided up is basically into 4 kind of, they're not formal offices, but kind of pillars that we lead. The first is constituent relations. The university has, I think at last count, about 57 independent constituent groups that advocate on behalf of the university. Some of them are alumni focused, some of them are fundraising focused, and a lot of those live in the foundation. Others are just advocacy focused, and the largest of those is the UMKC trustees that we manage relationships with. We also have government relations. Connor is our director of government relations, and he maintains our partnerships at the city, county, region, state, national, and even foreign dignitaries. Believe it or not, we get a lot more foreign dignitaries than most people would think, and they're the ones that often give us the least amount of notice. If the city council member wants to come, we normally have at least a month and a half to prepare, but we've had 24 hours to let people know that we just had the ambassador from Ukraine was coming with his best friend Warren Buffett's son. And could you put something together? By the way, we'll be there tomorrow at 3. So the foreign dignitaries sometimes don't always give us the most heads up, but we kind of head up those relationships as well. Special events, which a lot of that work Matt champions with Laura Rupp and Laura Sklujanca. So that includes things like commencement, today's Pride Luncheon, which is happening, which raises funds for students all across the university. And then our area, Matt and I, community relations, and that includes our relationships with the neighborhoods, our relationships with the business and corporate community, various nonprofits, folks working in the arts, civic, and youth service organizations. And I'll kind of break that down a little bit here in a second. I want to talk a little bit about the vision as a whole, each of those buckets, some of the impact of statistics that they've had, just because I like to brag on my colleagues because they do really good work. Our government relations team, this is last academic year. They held 85 meetings and events with our elected officials over the course of the year. That's a lot when you consider how many working days there actually are. We know our elected officials don't like to necessarily meet outside of working hours, and so those aren't necessarily evenings or weekends. Those are meetings that we're having everyone from the governor to our the mayor, secretary of transportation, Pete Buttigieg was on campus. And I think if you look really close, you might be able to see, I think this is me leaning, trying to get into the picture a little bit. Fun fact about that, the secretary has an advanced team that comes and does work, and he said, hey, the secretary is going to have time for pictures, but we won't have time for individual pictures, only group pictures. Yeah. So the chancellor and the provost were kind of up in line, and the chancellor wanted his own individual photo, and we said, sorry, we have to do group photos, and he was a little disappointed, but he went up and he got a group photo with some people, and we moved through, and at the end of the day, it was just me and Troy that were left, and we said, okay, we'll get a quick group photo, and he's like, hey, we're well on time, why don't you guys just get individual photos? And you can see the chancellor look like, oh, he was so frustrated. But I do have an individual photo with the secretary upstairs. So. Special events, again, Matt and the Laura's, 107 ERSI managed events and 147 working days. So they are probably one of the busiest teams on campus, constantly moving from one event to the other. If you've ever had a chance to be at some of our large events like the Star Women's Hall of Fame, commencement, you know that they do their absolute best to make that feel so special for the folks that are there.
Nate, does that include like the conservatory having their
no, those are the conservatory's own events. These are just university-wide events, things that our division touches. And so some of them, the conservatory does 500 plus performances a year. That's in addition. This is just kind of these big signature events. And of course, the constituent engagement I mentioned, the trustees, women's council, all kinds of constituent groups. So that's everybody else in our division. And now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about community relations. Don't tell my colleagues I gave each of them one slide, but I'm going to give myself a little bit more. So I would say we have 3 main pillars of the work that we do in community relations. The first I would say is the programmatic efforts that we put on. So these are actual events, they're programs that we invite folks to. Some of them you may have heard of, some of them are geared towards the community, some of them are geared towards the campus. Things like UMKC Day at the Kansas City Symphony. Symphony approached us a couple years ago and said, we really want to build younger audiences for our group. So could you help us leverage the fact that you all have younger folks on campus, and we put together, going into its 3rd year now, we're bringing hundreds of students that have never set foot in the coffin, and have never heard a live performance, introducing them to classical music for the first time. Universities Exchange is a program that we started in collaboration with UMSL in St. Louis, saying that urban education is a little bit different. than maybe some things that you're seeing in rural communities or your liberal arts institutions in the small college towns. We have a direct responsibility to address the needs of our community. And so what we do is we bring together a faculty member from UMKC, faculty member from UMSL, a community partner working on an issue from each city, and we bring them in for a dialogue moderated by NPR hosts from the individual cities. So Steve Kraske, Sarah Fensky over in St. Louis, and we dive into what are the issues that are most pressing in Kansas City and St. Louis, and how do we work together to address those? So we've looked at the mental health crisis for our youth. We've looked at abandoned buildings and structures. We've looked at COVID, obviously health issues during the time of COVID. We've running this program for a couple of years. And we're excited to also now start looking at some of what's going well in cities. And so we're looking forward to a series on how does music shape the identity of cities. And so we'll be putting that together here in the fall. Here's an opportunity that you all have can take advantage of. UMKC Day at the Disney 100 exhibition at Union Station. How many of you have had a chance to be at the exhibition yet? It is magical. It is so incredibly well done. If you haven't had a chance to go yet, Saturday, October 19th is UMKC Day at the exhibition. We're one of the main sponsors that are bringing the exhibition in with Union Station. As a retiree, you would enter the code UMKC 100 when you purchase your tickets, and you would get 50% off your admission for that day. We also have a fair amount of UMKC events at the exhibition that day. Alumni Douglas Enderle, who was the senior costume designer for the Walt Disney Company, will be there sharing about his time working for the company. His Emmy that he won for his work with Disney is on display in the exhibition. The National Museum of Toys and Miniatures will be there that day for a family activity where you can make your own stuffed kangaroo. And then our history professor, Dr. David Trowbridge, will be there talking about the history of Walt in Kansas City, Missouri. UMKC Engagement Month, we are fully in that right now. That is a program that we put together when I started to really curate all the great things that are happening at the university that are open to the community and packaging them together. A lot of times folks know about this event that they've been really passionate about, or they've been connected to the conservatory, so they know about those performances, but they don't know about the full breadth of everything that's available. And so we've worked with our marketing department to really package all of those things together in the fall to say, here's everything that's available in this snippet of time. We always joke that it used to be Engagement Week, and then it became Engagement Month, and I'm worried that soon we're just going to have Engagement Year, because you saw the number of events that are happening. There's no time on the college campus here where there isn't something available to the community to take advantage of. We just had UMKC and Starlight 2 weeks ago. That's the first year that we've done that. Similar to the symphony, Starlight reached out to us and said, we'd love to have more of a formal relationship with you. We'd love for UMKC to view the Starlight campus as an extension of your campus for space needs. And so we partnered with UMKC Family Weekend, where we're bringing folks in from around the region, hosting an event. It was a fantastic first half of a performance. And then the rain came. We had to abandon ship and ended up having to cancel the show that evening because of the lightning. But everyone still had a great time. It was fantastic to see that everyone from the young, siblings of our students out to the grandparents that were in town visiting, out at Starlight visiting. And I'll share a little bit more about Insider Academy in just a moment. So those are just a few of the programs that our office within the division runs. So if programmatic is one pillar, the other pillar for us is relationship management. Each of the offices, government relations, they all do relationship management. These are really the three areas that fall underneath our purview. The first and the one that I probably enjoy the most, spend the most amount of time with, is our Neighborhood Advisory Council and the broader neighborhoods. So there are 9 neighborhoods that share a physical boundary with the Volker campus, and 4 neighborhoods that share a physical boundary with the Health Science District. And the university works to maintain relationships with each of those neighborhoods. And those of you that live in those neighborhoods could probably recall a time in which relationships between the university and the neighborhoods was less than stellar. I was at a hot air balloon festival at where was it? World War I Museum, and I saw a girl who couldn't have been more than 22 years old. wearing a T-shirt that I'm sure she found at a thrift store that said, UMKC kills our homes.
Yeah,
And
I
I
remember that.
thought, I thought maybe we'd never see that one again, but there it was a couple years ago out and about. Jim, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You sit on the neighborhood advisory council. Would you dare to say that relationships with the neighborhoods are maybe a little bit better?
It's never been better. You have transformed that and do just a great job.
Thank you.
But then the university doesn't try to buy houses anymore.
Well, and we're going to share a little bit about that as well, and at the very end about the houses. And so we have worked really, really hard to turn the tone of that relationship with the neighborhoods to make them feel like they've got a seat at the table, involved in decision making, that their voices are respected. There's a line that the NAC has, the Neighborhood Advisory Council, that we all have the shared goal, right? We want a great community for everyone that lives here, studies here, and works here. And that really has kind of motivated and guided us. And it's been great because that's also been the charge that we've been given from leadership down. Everyone from the chancellor to our vice chancellor of finance, those changes in leadership have ripple effects. So things that you wouldn't always think about. When we release an RFP now, and we'll talk about these in a little bit, a request for proposals for facilities projects. It used to be, we're going to release the RFP, and if you don't like what you see, too bad, so sad. Now, every RFP that we have has specific requirements for any developer that says, you want to work with us? Are you going to work with the communities? We won't even consider your application unless you're submitting your own individual community engagement plan. You want to do construction projects? How are we going to make sure you mitigate noise? We don't want our community partners and our neighbors, having to call us saying this is so loud. We want them to be able to live and study in peace. So the Neighborhood Advisory Council is one of my favorite groups that I get to work with. We only meet quarterly, but we try to keep up to date with each other as much as possible.
And the tone has changed so much from sort of that defensive posture of the university to a partnership and engagement, and it's very healthy.
Yeah, most definitely. UMKC Insiders, that's another one. We're going to share a video about that in a second. This is a new initiative that we started at the request of Chancellor Agarwal in the fall of 2022. So we know that there are a lot of influential folks in Kansas City. And there are a lot of influential folks in Kansas City that the university has little to no relationship with. And the foundation often is tasked with forming those relationships, but sometimes if you give up a cold call is never fun, right? Especially if you're fundraising, but sometimes you just want to get folks involved in things and you don't always know how to do that. And so we've developed the UMKC Insider Academy. It runs twice a year. It is a day-long, immersive VIP experience that we just roll out the red carpet for. We bring about 20 folks that are hand-selected. We kind of do some work on the back end to figure out who are the rising leaders in town. They get a personal invitation from someone that we think will resonate with them. Sometimes that's me. Sometimes that might be a personal invitation from the chancellor if we think that's what's going to take to get them here. And then we just Disneyfy the day. We make sure every little jot and tittle is thought through. They get here, they have breakfast with the provost, and then we whisk them off on the UMKC golf carts, and they only do the fun things, right? We work with our faculty, we tell them no PowerPoints, don't even think about giving someone notes. We only want them to have a great time where they're here. So they go to the conservatory and they meet the dean, and he shares a little bit about the conservatory, and then the next thing you know, well, oh, look at this. It's our entire ballet class, and they would love for you to join them in their practice with one of their performances. And our insiders go from being a business person to a ballerina. Or maybe you'd like to come and see our School of Humanities and Social Sciences. They have a great digital media and film production class. Oh, look at this. They just happen to be in the middle of filming a movie right now. Would you like to be the person that holds the boom mic? Would you like to be the person that gets to snap the thing? Things that you become a little kid again, right? We take them up to the health science district. We put them in a code red simulation in the emergency room. They walk in and all of a sudden they're the doctor. This person, we don't know what's wrong. If you can diagnose them, we need to save their life. And you have never seen a CEO go as white, because it's just a mannequin that's there. And so you think it would be, they get immersed, and then all of a sudden a crisis actor comes in pretending to be the wife, and she's in hysterics, and then unfortunately the patient likely dies. And we explain to them what was wrong, and then we have them do the simulation again after a little bit of training, and we realized, oh, it was just anaphylactic shock. They just needed an EpiPen, and they administer the EpiPen, and off they go. And then they end the day with happy hour with the chicks. And the next thing you know, we have what went from a no relationship to someone who, at their next happy hour, all they want to do is talk about this great experience they had at UMKC. They're telling their friends about it. When we first developed the program, our biggest concern was, how are we going to get people to come and spend 8 hours with us? It's going to be a slog. After the first successful program, I've got a wait list several years long. I've got people saying, I heard about this. How do I get in? I'm like, well, it's kind of exclusive. So a little bit of an invitation. We'd love to add you to the list, and we do, but it takes a while to get through. Our latest initiative that we do is our new paradigm for company connections. That's an initiative out of the trustees that we're able to manage. And that is really taking a closer look at how are we engaging our corporate partners. Right now, we know that we have corporate partners across the university. They're in little pockets, but no one is managing them holistically. And so we're working with our counterparts across the institution to figure out how do we do that at a higher level. I'm going to share a quick video. This kind of gives you an insight into the Insider Academy. We also always bring our film crew and a photographer while we're there. And so we get all these great photos and send them off to our participants after they're done. This is, we ask folks to share a little bit about their experience.
Insider Academy. I had no idea what to expect. It was an amazing experience. There's an amazing collection of people who are here today.
I think I pictured that it would be more sitting and getting information, but it wasn't that at all. I got to dig in and get my hands dirty and have an experience that was more representative of what the rich student life is here.
It's just a great opportunity to meet a lot of good folks and see if there's opportunities to connect and partner. I think UMKC is looking for community partnerships.
If you get the opportunity to participate in the Insider Academy, absolutely do it. You will learn so much about this university and the ways that it is serving our Kansas City community.
Insider Academy. Do it and don't look back.
I love that he says do it and don't look back, and as he says don't look back, he's turning backwards. So I was like, oh, I have to use that. The last pillar is communications. So we know that our relationships with the community are only as good as the communication that we can actually have with them. And so we've been really working to develop new mechanisms to communicate with them. The first is Community Connect. It's a separate component of the UMKC website. If you were to log into the UMKC website, you all are not the intended user, right? Who's the intended user for the UMKC website?
Students.
No.
Prospective students.
Prospective students. It's all the UMKC website is. We want you to see this and think, I want to come here. It has nothing to do with faculty, staff, or students now, and it definitely has nothing to do with the community.
That makes it very hard for us to work with.
I would agree with that. So what we've done is develop a new portion of the website called Community Connect. It's community.umkc.edu. It looks just like the regular university website, except that it has none of the stuff that isn't relevant to the community. It's only curated content, upcoming lectures, upcoming events, research that impacts the community. Did you know we have a faculty member that's working with the city to improve sidewalks? How do you request those sidewalks? Here's a link to the city so that you can get a connection. So encourage you, check that out. Matt and I manage that website. We try to put up a couple new posts a week so that folks see all the great things that are happening in the community.
What was the website again?
Community.umkc.edu. And Matt, we can send out links and notes afterwards. The other one is.
Could you include the 50% off for Disney
Yes.
in that note as well?
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. The other one is neighborhood news. If you are like me, you get a lot of your news via email through newsletters. This is a newsletter that we developed, again, specifically for the community. And so it only has content in it about things that folks that are living in kind of a concentric circle close to campus would find relevant. Little letter from me in the beginning, kind of sharing what's going on, upcoming events, probably one of the more popular sections of the newsletter, construction updates, letting them know what's happening. Hey, this road's going to be closed. Hey, this building's going to be offline. And then just some links to general resources. Again, no content about the latest enrollment rates, right? No content about this dean search just kicked off. All great things, but by and large, folks don't really care for that. They don't. If you're the average citizen in Crestwood, the enrollment rates at the university aren't what you're looking for. You don't wake up in the morning with your cup of coffee and think, man, I wonder if their enrollment rates hit target today. You think, I wonder what I'm going to do this evening. Is there a lecture I could go to? Is there a music performance? Are the Rude basketball team, are they in town? So neighborhood news, we can get you the link to subscribe to that as well. It comes out every month and a half or so. And then one of my favorite projects is we have been working with our partners in communications to develop a video series that highlights the impact our faculty, staff, and students are having in the community. We know the impact, but we have to tell that story. And so we've been working through each academic unit to find a really impactful story and kind of put together a little video package that shares that. How many mothers, grandmothers in the room today? I'm just gonna warn you now, you might want to pull those tissues a little bit closer to you.
Because I really wanted to work with people, help them solve their problems. And I decided that UMKC School of Law was the best place to do that because of the family law program here specifically. I'm originally from St. Louis, and so I knew I wanted to practice within the state of Missouri. And I was really looking for options here of what's the best way to familiarize myself with family law and really get experience before I even graduate.
The UMKC Child and Family Legal Services Clinic is designed to provide law students with the opportunity to help people in the community who cannot afford an attorney. Clinic serves as the capstone. It really is, that last piece of the puzzle where they actually get to put what they have learned in some of the other family law classes into action.
The clinic gives me that opportunity to actually go into court and make arguments on behalf of a client. We're really able to help people in those situations that are so personal and can be so stressful that they might not be able to see a way out. My story started at the age of 15 with my addiction. From the age 15 to 19, I was in and out of different schools, different drugs, and I got addicted to pain pills. By the time my third kid came around, I was full on in my addiction. And I started using heroin because I couldn't get pain pills anymore. In February 2017, I lost my rights to my children. I had lost my 3 oldest first and was pregnant with my 4th. I ended up being in a treatment center with my 4th baby. My child was taken from me when he was 4 days old. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever went through. One day I was just sitting in the car and I'm looking at a picture of my kids and I just literally was like, I want to change my life. Like I want something so different. My caseworker through Cornerstones had told me that UMKC Law was stepping in to take my case pro bono so I could get my rights back to my kids. That was the first time I felt like I had hope in the whole process. And for a long time, I didn't feel like I even had hope. Over the past decade, the clinic has placed over 1,000 children into permanent homes, which is something that I think is very cool, especially because this is all led by students. These cases are run by students.
I don't think there's enough people doing this work, and certainly not enough people who are doing it for free. There would be an absence, there would be a void for the community because there's just not enough people that they can turn to.
My job as an attorney is something that the UMKC Child and Family Services Clinic takes really seriously, is making sure that we're able to meet those people where they're at and help kind of take the blinders off and help them see a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm just very grateful for the Law Clinic. I'm very appreciative. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have lost my case if I didn't have the representation that I did, honestly. To give my kids everything that I didn't have, it's like what I always dreamed of. So I love my babies, love them more than anything. And I really try to make sure that they're given everything they need and want in life, and that they have differently, and that they're going to grow up to do big things. I can't wait to see what life gives them.
We get to go in and tell those stories every month. And I absolutely, it's one of my favorite parts of my job. And that's just a snippet. There are so many impactful things happening here at the university. Again, of, by, and for the community. Every school that we have has stories like that. And
Nate, I know that UMKC has lots of videos on YouTube. Is there a
Yes.
YouTube link
we
to
can
look at the various stories that you
Matt,
have?
I just sent Matt all of the videos that we've done in this series, and we can send those out to you as well.
Okay.
We go out on those video shoots with MCOM because, again, their normal audience is prospective students. They're not always thinking about community members. And so we go and we are kind of like the producer in the back end and say, hey, could you repeat your answer to that question again, but this time don't use the acronym, right? Folks in the community don't know what the acronym means. Or could you do that again, but this time explain why that's important to the community. And so we really try to help hone those stories so that they really kind of tell us the impact that so many people on campus are having. Okay, we're gonna spend the last little bit of time talking about some exciting development projects. And then I can answer the questions that I'm able to answer both if I have the information and also some things that are in contracting phase and I'm not always able to reveal kind of where things are at in that. So the first, I'm sure you know this because you live in Kansas City and the main street has had a cone or two on it for a year and then a decade. But the streetcar is coming. It'll be here soon. Last we talked to the folks with the streetcar track installation is complete. The electrification on the top was at like 97% done. And soon, I think they've already started moving the streetcar south of Pershing and they're going to be testing. That is going to be right over here. My office kind of overlooks where the streetcar is, and I am so looking forward to when that comes. And I can't wait to just schedule a ridiculous amount of meetings downtown for no reason, other than to ride a streetcar. But that's going to have a real impact for our campus. It's going to create a whole new front door, but it's also going to open the opportunity for our students to get downtown for internships with the corporations in ways that they've never experienced. And so that is really going to change the structure of campus. If you live anywhere on campus recently, you probably in the last week noticed that 51st Street between Cherry and Rock Hill is closed. If you're like, man, I really hope that opens back up soon, it's not. It will never open back up. We have been working for many years with the city to do what's called a street vacation. That is unlike the vacation you just took. It is basically means it is closed to vehicular traffic forevermore. It is now property of the university as of last Monday, and we are turning it into a pedestrian-only thoroughfare. So many cars zip through that street that it's a danger to our students. Traffic control is a real issue for us. If you saw the news, you know that we lost a student last week when they were hit trying to cross Troost Avenue. This is step one of many steps to continuing to improve the traffic conditions around our campus to ensure that they're the safest for our students, but they're also the safest for the folks that live in the communities around us as well. Over the next couple of months, you'll see some gradual improvements to 51st Street, because right now it's just a paved road. Eventually it'll become a paved road with other things on it. So we're thinking of things about patio lights and little vignettes for seating and bag games. And of course, the idea is that over the next coming years, you'll see that transition to more of like what you see in this photo, a real pedestrian thoroughfare, a campus walkway, activations for student activities. You can just imagine fall festivals, food trucks for students out, all kinds of stuff that will happen on 51st Street in the coming years. We're going to be doing some deep dives with our neighborhood advisory council to say, what would the neighborhood love to see there? If you were walking through campus, what would be a win for you as you were walking around, and how can we incorporate that into 51st Street?
So this is a picture of 51st Street?
This is a picture here at 51st Street of what we hope it will look like. So right now, this is just a road. This is kind of a projection of what we hope 51st Street will look like in the coming years.
That is the library in the big back.
That is the library in the back, yes. Yep. Two really exciting developments for our School of Medicine and our School of Dentistry. This one here is the new $145 million Health Delivery and Innovation Building. We just had the groundbreaking ceremony 2 or 3 weeks ago. That is going to be a state-of-the-art clinic space. Right now, if you go to our community member and you go to our School of Dentistry clinics, they basically look exactly the same as they were in 1970 when they were built. They see 75,000 patients a year. I thought the first time I heard that, I was like, well, that's clearly a typo. You probably see 7,000 patients a year. 75,000 patients a year that they see in those clinics. It is vast. It blows me away. And the amount of uncompensated care for folks that are at or below the poverty income is staggering. One of our videos is about the clinic, and that's another one that will make you a little teary-eyed. This will have all new clinic space, so great state-of-the-art things for our students to actually train in facilities that are much more like what they'll be engaging in when they're in the community. But it is going to drastically improve the patient experience for the community as well. If you are like me, you don't like going to the dentist, they tell you that you need to floss more, they ask you when the last time you flossed was, you said you should know, you were there, it was a year ago when I was here seeing you. But it will also have simulation space for our School of Medicine, all kinds of great classroom space. It's going to really, we hope, be the first of many, many new developments in the Health Science District. Chancellor has a bold vision of partnering with the city and the county to making that the destination for healthcare, not just in Kansas City, but in the region. That if you need specialty care, you don't have to go to Denver. You don't have to go to Minneapolis. You will come to your own backyard, and that UMKC will be the seat of that. So we've got many, many plans. There's a lot of undeveloped land that either we own, the county owns, or the city owns, all in that area. And we're closely working with the communities to ensure that that development is done in a way that benefits them as well. Ensuring that the amenities that are built in, like on this first floor, this is all retail and restaurant space. Why is that there? Because in their listening sessions with the community, they said, that's what we need. The building is capped at, I think it ends up being like 6 stories. Why is it capped on that? 1, cost. 2, we're talking to the community and they said, we don't really want to lose our view of the skyline. Okay, how do we then make the building longer to fill the space while making sure the community is still getting what they're looking for?
Is that Charlotte?
This would be Charlotte and 25th. So 25th, I gotta think where I'm at on, no, this is Charlotte.
Okay.
This is actually 1 block down, so it would be 24th, I think, or 24th.
Looking east.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very interesting design because the space is very hilly. So from one side, the building looks much taller than it does on the other side because of the topography of the space. This other rendering is our School of Medicine that's being built in St. Joseph. There is a lot of need for rural physicians and rural healthcare across the state. Many, many, many of Missouri's counties have no physician in them. And so we are working with Mosaic Healthcare in St. Joe to address that problem, training the students in rural communities so that they know the communities that they would be practicing in and are more likely to stay in those communities. What we found was if we take students from rural communities, we bring them to the city to train them, they are far less likely to return, right? Because then they're like, well, I kind of like city life. I like that I can get Thai food 10 minutes from my house. But if we instead build the communities there and train them, they are much more likely to stay. And so that building is being built right now, and we are already in conversations about building a new School of Dentistry campus as well to address the rural dentistry shortages. I think that's going to be a real shift that you're going to see from the university. Is for the longest time we were, right, Kansas City's university, and that will never change. But how are we leveraging the assets that we have to meet the needs of all Missourians, especially those in the rural communities, will be a continued growing focus.
So how far along is that building?
Inside the last time I was up there, it was a concrete slab with pipes sticking out of the ground. So, but I believe the hope is fall 2025 is when it opens. So we're about a year out from that. So.
That's good.
These ones are a little bit closer to home. This is the historic Epperson Mansion right over by the Toy Miniature Museum. Beautiful, beautiful space that has sat empty for 15, 16 years at this point. In the spring of 2020, the university released an RFP for reinvestment into the Epperson Mansion. Again, two things happened right at that time. One, I started to derail the whole process, or it could have been COVID. COVID came, and so we didn't receive any submissions to the RFP process, and it continued to sit. We reimagined that RFP again under some new leadership with some really intentional guidelines about what it would take. And I'm excited to share that we have signed the term paper, which is the last step before the formal contract, with a developer that specializes in historic preservation and restoration. And we are so close to being able to announce that there will be some historic reinvestment in Epperson House that will turn it back into a community asset. How many of you have ever been to the Elms? You won't have to go up there anymore. They want to do that here. Not the Elms, but day spa, little boutique coffee shops, 7 to 8 boutique rooms where you can stay overnight. Maybe you get a massage, maybe you have a cocktail, maybe you come over and some of the UMKC conservatory students are doing a performance there. So the space would not be operated by the university. It would all be completely with the developer, but would be turned over into a community asset. Again, everything in that RFP had language about how are you going to build this into something that impacts the community in the best way possible and the campus. How are you going to maintain the historic preservation of the interior, the exterior, the grounds? Such intentionality went into that RFP. And we are so close to signing that contract. And that's about all that I can share on that because we're in the contracting phase. But I'm hoping very, very soon, Jim, I'm hoping at the December NAC meeting, we'll have renderings of what's being proposed. And it'll blow you away. Someone mentioned the university stopped buying any homes, which has helped with the improvement. If you have been on the properties, the community south of campus, there's 2 neighborhoods there. There's Crestwood and there's Rock Hill Crest. Several decades ago, the university continued to buy up properties within that neighborhood with the understanding that at some point the university would need to expand and would likely expand that way. And so over the course of many, many years, the university acquired 157 houses and is the primary landowner of the entire Rock Hill Crest neighborhood. At the time, this is well before me, but at the time there were significant calls to return those properties back to the community to ensure that they were owner-occupied houses, and those calls went unheeded for some time. The houses were, obviously campus did not expand, the houses were used for student housing, they were used for housing administrative offices, faculty offices, and the like. What we've seen in recent years is several things. One, our need for student housing has decreased. After COVID, we never actually returned to the need for student housing that we saw pre-COVID. Our enrollments have never been higher, but the need for student housing has not continued to match pace with that. As a result, the university found itself in a role that it didn't need to be in. It was leasing houses to community members, and it put us in a position to being a landlord, which is outside of our academic mission. I think an argument can be made that making sure our students had housing fit within, but the general community members not so much. While that was happening, we continued to hear calls from the community saying we need to return these houses back to the community. We had some amazing forward thinking from our former Vice Chancellor of Finance, Sean Reeder, who with Troy and consultation from the Neighborhood Advisory Committee put together, I think, one of the most best practice example of community restoration from the university, I think, anywhere in the country. What we have done is we have identified just 10 of those houses. And we have released an RFP for reinvestment into those houses to bring them up to the state that we feel the community is asking them to be in, but so that they can be priced at a level that is affordable for working class individuals in Kansas City, folks that are working as firefighters, teachers, nurses. How are we able to do that? We have found a very, very ambitious developer who is backed by an endowment designed specifically for that. And what we are hoping to do is soon have that contract release that we can share. We will be taking those first 10 homes, bringing them up to slate. When you do 10 at a time, you can lower costs, right? We can say, all right, 7 of these 10 need a new roof. Let's do that all at once. 6 of these 10 need foundation repairs. Let's do that all at once. And then we're going to be working to put deed restrictions use houses as well, so that they mandate that they have to be sold to owner-occupied individuals. They can't be used as short-term rentals. They can't be Airbnbs. And we will finally be returning the neighborhood back to the neighborhood. And we are exceedingly excited about that. The hope is that while we're working on these first 10, we can get a feel as the partnership working with the developer, and then re-release an RFP for the next 5, and then the next 10, and then the next 6. And the hope is that eventually we're able to release at least half of those back to the community. Some of them are still being used for administrative offices, and until we have space to do that, we have to retain those. But to really make an intentional effort to beautify the spaces, maintain architectural integrity. If there are a few vacant lots, if new buildings are being developed, are they meeting the design features that the community is looking for, and returning that back. This will be I will be sitting with you all at a retiree meeting when this project is done. This will take years to make sure that we do it intentionally and correctly, because we could easily flood the market, right? If we release all the houses at once, and then all of a sudden we've just plummeted housing values. And so we've got to do it slowly and intentionally to make sure that we're returning things back to the way they should be. So really, really excited about that as well. I've got a few minutes. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, go ahead. Finish it then.
Oh, that's it. I was going to say thank you so much for your time.
Good
I'm
timing.
happy to answer questions on those things.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let me start.
Are you okay if I sit? I like more.
Oh, yes, please. Feel free. Does the university has any plan about developing some of those homes, 110 or so you said?
There's 157, only 10 right now.
Some of them down the line, Airbnb kind of facility.
No.
The reason okay, because at most of the big schools, of course, we are not that big. I graduated from Purdue, and they have a memorial union, and in that memorial union, they have got guest rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go there, I have privilege to stay there, and that's always a very nice connection.
Yeah.
So is there anything planned for UMKC that?
There will be both boutique hotel rooms within the new spaces in Epperson. We also know that there are going to be some new boutique hotel possibilities being done with the development on the plaza. We do not want to be in the position where we are operating short-term rentals like that. The calls that we have heard from the community is that is not what they are looking for, and we are responding to that by saying any house that we position back to the community will be owner occupied. One of the things that I should also mention is that every dollar from the sale of those properties will go directly to student scholarships. And so they'll be managed by the UMKC trustees to ensure that our trustees scholar program continues to thrive. And so it won't pad bottom line. It won't give a bonus to anyone involved. It goes directly to student scholarships.
So as an endowment?
Yes.
That's the basis of an, okay.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
We live across the street in Brookside 51, so we're in the neighborhood here. We have heard that there's maybe going to be like an auditorium or built.
Yes, there's an arena that's proposed here at the corner of these open grass fields and where the existing parking garage is. That was an RFP that was released almost 2 years ago. We received quite a few actually submissions for that, but they all came in significantly over the budget that we had anticipated. And so what we're doing now is we are actively looking for additional partners that would like to go in on that with us. So if we need an arena maybe 6 months of the year for our volleyball, our basketball facilities, but the other 6 months of the year, we want to be able to use it as a community asset. Are there other folks that also want to use that space, and with that, bringing them along help us reduce the costs? So we are still actively engaging. The last I heard, we had one more potential partner that they were going to be interviewing, I want to say in October, and so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to make some movement there. It will also likely include some changes to the colonial shops as well. Those were included in the RFP as available at the discretion of the developer for their proposal. So if the developer wanted to incorporate the existing architecture, they would be welcome to do so. If a developer said we need that space in order to activate that area, they would be welcome to do so as well, which would mean raising the building. But what we have been doing is working really intentionally with the tenants of the building to ensure that they have as much notice as possible. And every tenant in the building has expressed interest in being in the new development. That building is far from ADA accessible. In the best case of scenario, especially once the streetcar gets here. Because if you've actually looked at where the streetcar ends, it ends not at the corner, it ends about 100 yards back. So when you exit the streetcar, what you're faced with is the back of a building that you cannot enter if you have any kind of mobility issues whatsoever. And so we're looking at ways, how do we actively make sure that that is accessible to everybody, is a welcoming front door when the streetcar gets here, and meets the needs of the local vendors. We had several listening sessions about that, and all the things that we heard was what we love about the colonial shops is that I can drop in, I can have a little outdoor set of coffee. All of those things were taken into account and given to the developer, and are weighed in when we will finally, eventually, review those RFPs to make sure that we're selecting a proposal that meets the needs of what is going in there. And I can tell you that pedestrian access and that kind of neighborhood feel is chief among them. So it'll look different eventually, hopefully.
That may be
knock
something.
on wood. Yeah, right now I have no timeline on that.
And Pizza 51.
Pizza 51 is not owned by the university. That little corner there is independent. They just celebrated their 20th anniversary, and it was a lovely time. And I think Jason is planning on being there until he can't toss a pizza anymore. So.
Has there been any consideration of maybe building a retirement center on campus? I know that's really popular now in a lot of campuses. It brings great money into the university and provides seniors opportunities to take classes and connect. And
I have not heard that.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea, and I think there are already seeds planted that could be fruitful in that conversation. Our dean of the conservatory is already housing some of our students in retirement communities around campus. So the students receive free housing in the retirement communities. In exchange, they do weekly performances for those that live there. And so we've already seen ways that that relationship can be fruitful, but I've not heard a suggestion about building one on campus, but I think it's a lovely idea.
About 50 or 60 such communities in the United States. I was amazed. I had no idea.
Yeah, I love that.
And Epperson House is supposed to be one of the most haunted houses in this country.
Yes.
And I've taken visitors to UMKC, making sure that we'd go and stop at the house every time. So in the new development, are you going to leverage that reputation somehow?
The developers are well aware of the reputation. I think they may be counting on banking that a little bit to draw some folks in. I have been in the house several times. Besides it being incredibly dusty, I haven't seen much activity, right? But we've used it. So I mentioned the Insider Academy. We find ways to keep engaged with those folks, and so we hosted an insider reunion on Halloween in Epperson House. It was lovely, but we were told by catering that they would never do it again because we didn't want to clean the cobwebs. That kind of led to the feel, and so they thought it was maybe not as clean in its current space. I imagine that will continue to be velour. I think it will be harder for it to be velour when it is brand spanking new and there's activity. It's really easy to think that a place is haunted when
I was there last week on a ghost tour.
Yeah.
We didn't go in.
Yeah.
But Chris Wolf from
Chris does a fantastic tour.
had so many photos of the wood pan, everything looks gorgeous.
It is very good. There's significant repair that is needed. There's a lot of work that will have to go into it. But if they can even get it to a glimpse of what it used to be, it's going to be just a fantastic asset for the community.
2 elephants were left in the elephant room out of many that they wanted.
You want your job.
How old is the building, do you know?
Oh, I should know, but I don't know offhand. Chris could probably tell us. Yeah.
It truly does.
It was only lived in for less than a decade, I think. By the time it was built, the family, one of them had, I think, perished while it was being built, a husband, and the wife lived in shortly for a little bit, and then she died. So there were a very, very little time that was actually used as a residence.
Well, a lot of the houses, I live south in Brookside, south of the campus too, and a lot of those houses, mine was built in the 20s, not 22, I think.
Yeah.
So
I think that might be older than 22, but I could be wrong.
it certainly is around the turn of the century.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I have pictures of soldiers being housed there. I think World War II.
Yeah.
Have you seen those pictures?
I have seen those, yeah. It's had so many uses over the time. It just got to the point where it was beyond the scope of the university to kind of maintain the repairs, because if we would do it, we have certain codes that we have to follow, that sprinklers and elevators and things like that. And the rooms were maybe a little bit too big for dorms, and sometimes they were a little bit too small for the classrooms, and so it just eventually kind of fell out of use for us. And so I'm excited that it can be put back into, I think, more of what it was intended for, which was a space to entertain and to be an asset. So
Took my first class at UMKC in the fall of '71, and it was in Epperson.
Yeah.
Very interesting place. I think we were on top of what had been the swimming pool.
Oh,
they
sure.
were filled in.
Yeah. The swimming pool was currently covered, but someone did spill a gallon of red paint on that, and it definitely looks like someone drug a body. It's not helping the reputation of being haunted as you walk out and see this big street down there. So. Any other questions?
Well, you talked about things. Is there some coordinated projects going on with Lindenhall Library?
We work very closely with the Lindenhall Library, especially now that all the changes on 51st Street. And we have, that I think was focused obviously on infrastructure, but has opened the door to additional conversations around ways that we leverage their assets for our students and faculty and staff, but also for the community. And so we just recently hosted a group of Nepali STEM students that were here at the funding of the U.S. consulate. And we brought them on campus. They met with some of our STEM faculty and STEM students, and then we took them over to Lindenhall and said, also, here's another asset that's right here on campus that you would love to see. And it becomes almost a symbiotic relationship where when they have opportunities, they let us know about it, and vice versa. This afternoon, I'll be there for the opening of one of their new exhibits, their art exhibits, and so it's a much closer relationship than it used to be.
The med school had, and they may still have, 3 strong constituent/parent groups. Do you do anything with parents?
No, we don't. The School of Medicine may on their own, and then we also have a staff member in student activities that is associate director of new student and parent engagement, and they primarily are the ones that would interface with that. I can't think of any constituent groups that we actively manage that are parent focused. So.
And it's more for advocacy.
Yeah.
They pay enough tuition.
Yeah.
We're strong. I don't know if they're still going.
I couldn't answer that. I'm sorry. Well, thank you all so much. Oh,
Can I ask you? You mentioned that 51st Street will be under the control of university.
Yes.
So how does the process work? Was it a very long legal process?
It was an exceedingly long. You would not believe the amount of administrative red tape that we had to go through. Everything from working with the city, and then it has to go through this committee on council and get approved. Well, what if we change this? Well, then it starts all back over, working with the city planning commission, finally through council. Oh, well, if you do that, you also need traffic studies for ways that it would affect the neighboring streets. Oh, and by the way, Rock Hill is a boulevard, which means that it's maintained by Parks and Rec and not by the city proper. So you've got to start that process. So we had a former staff member that left, and when he left, we said, hey, we'll invite you back when we close 51st Street. And he's probably a little bit older than me. He said, oh, that would be a great event. I can't wait to bring my grandchildren to it. And so we kind of gave him an angry fist. But so yeah, it took a while, and we're excited that it's finally moved forward. So